morning, everyone. My name is Taryn, and thank you so much for stopping by my channel, Nicole Flower House. This channel is all about my cut flower garden, and I'm located in Zone 7B. The morning I shot this footage, it had just rained, and so a lot of these shots are just here for enjoyment of the water on the leaves and on the petals. There were a lot of birds singing this morning, and it was just very peaceful and quiet out in the garden. My roses are really enjoying the cooler weather and have been putting on much more blooms than before. These are my heirloom chrysanthemums. They are from King's Mums, and the variety on this one is called Kelvin Mandarin. It's a nice orange. I'm really hoping that they'll bloom fully by next week in time for Halloween. And the buds are starting to get some blush on them, some color, so it shouldn't be much longer. This pink gomphrena is looking really nice, and there's also some red ones in there. They're going very well in my fall themed arrangements. These white ones I'm saving to cut and dry, hopefully to use for holiday stuff. These purple ones also look really nice in the fall bouquets. This is a Cafe au lait dahlia. It's one that I tried to move and I must have missed a piece of it, so it grew into a whole new plant. And I don't know if you caught it, but there was a spider web that was so beautiful in there. And this celosia was a volunteer, so I'm not sure what the variety is on that, but behind it, this beautiful plant here is actually asparagus. It's getting late enough into the fall that I probably could cut some of this for foliage if I wanted to, but right now I'm just leaving it alone. The foliage on this plant is just glistening with all the raindrops. It's so pretty to look at. I'm still struggling with disease in the dahlia patch. You can see this bud here is nice and green, but on the same plant, this one is affected by either some kind of fungal disease. I'm not sure if it's just rain. I know a lot of dahlia growers that are in wet areas will put their dahlias in greenhouses just to keep the water off of them for less damage. But since I don't know what this is, I've decided not to keep my dahlia tubers from this season and to order fresh new ones for next and just start over. Even though the dahlia patch is kind of a mess again for a second year in a row, I'm really optimistic about my new plan for staking them up, that I will have improved health of my plants next year. This rose right here, Jubilee Celebration, is just blowing my mind. It has these really thick stems. The canes are beautiful, and they're putting on these sprays of really big roses that are the perfect pink, kind of peach coral in the center. And I've gotten the best vase life out of these than I have any other of my garden roses. It's definitely turning into one of my favorites, and I might even try planting more of this variety so I can get consistent blooms and bigger bouquets with them. Despite all of the staking issues and rain that we've been having, I'm still getting gorgeous blooms out of the dahlia patch. There's a lot of deadheading that needs to be done in here, but there's other blooms that are just thriving. Now, most of these varieties, I don't know what they are, since these are just transplanted dahlias from my garden last year and I didn't label them. If I happen to remember or recognize the variety, I'll put it up on the screen, but otherwise, unfortunately, it's just all a mystery. This zinnia patch still has plenty of blooms for me to pick from. I'm just stripping all the foliage off since it is diseased. That is due to the humidity in our area. And the celosia patch that is next door to it is also starting to rebound. I cut it back really hard because a lot of it had fallen over. It is starting to produce new fresh blooms. You can also see on here that a lot of this has gone to seed. So I'm just letting this be available for pollinators and birds and anything that wants to forage off of this. And there are usable stems along the perimeter, like right here, this flamingo feather celosia is doing very well. That is a second flush since I've cut back a lot of it, probably maybe a month ago. I'm not really sure, but it was a while ago. really wanted to show you that I still have bugs in my garden. I get a lot of comments on how I keep bugs out of my garden, and honestly, I don't. I have plenty of bugs. They just are camera shy, I'm not sure. But anyways, they are there. I'm trying to take care of that naturally and just allow natural predators like birds a place of refuge in the garden. Hopefully balance out the pest pressure naturally. This dinner plate dahlia really needs staking up, but I'm not worrying about it for the rest of this season. This dahlia next door has a stake and it's doing much better, and I will be doing more of that next year. This zinnia patch has so much disease on the foliage that I'm no longer able to use this in arrangements, but I am leaving it for pollinators because every time I come over to this patch and think about cleaning it up, it is full of bees and butterflies. This poor hollyhock over here is still being eaten by critters, just as I predicted. The foliage always looks really good, but it just never has a chance to produce any blooms. This section over here I've done a lot of work on to get grass and weeds. Here's some echinacea. I really like the cones, but I'm not sure if they should be turning black like that one right there. So maybe I just need to cut those cones sooner so I can use them. The stems are kind of short, so I'm not sure if that will improve as the plants age or if they will stay that short. This in here is actually called a cucamelon. It's actually related to cucumbers, I think. The seeds were from Baker Creek and it's edible. It's actually something I grew one year in my vegetable garden. And I think the melons were eaten by a skelly, our dog, or other animals, and now they're just kind of coming up everywhere on their own. This section down here has a lot of grass. I wasn't able to get all of it out, so I tried mowing some of it down. I will be working on pulling the stuff that I wasn't able to mow, and the stuff that I did mow, I will plan on mulching with cardboard and more soil to hopefully kill the remaining grass. I've made a lot of progress on cleaning this bed up, and hopefully I can maintain it better in the following years. This area back here, I had some logs or just really small trees that I was using to keep the borders of these garden beds. That didn't really work out for mowing, so I'll be getting rid of those. I've started amending a lot of my beds with the horse manure. It does have quite a bit of weed seeds in it, but it's really easy to pull this stuff up. But once I pull the mulch back and see how the soil is doing, the benefit of that horse manure is worth that little task of getting those weeds out. The soil is so much healthier. I'll probably pull a lot of this mulch off when I'm ready to plant, but for now we'll leave it on. And it is the season for me to start my ranunculus. My ranunculus are able to overwinter in my zone. I do protect them with several layers of frost cloth over the winter, and they bloom for me really well in the spring that way. In the fall, I keep a shade cloth over them, that's what's over them now, to help protect them from the hot sun. Here's an update on the rain barrels. I was able to get a new diverter, not from Blue Barrel Systems, but just online. This one fits the bigger gutters better, and this is just a cap that I used to fix the previous hole. So I keep a board here to keep this tube very level, and it's not very pretty, but keeping this level is really important. That allows the water to backflow back into the gutter instead of these vent holes on the top. So it's a system that has its own backflow incorporated. So when the barrels are full, it will back into that tube and then down the downspout instead of overflowing. These are my Snapdragons. I used to think that the only way to get Snapdragons was to continually sow new ones, but I'm seeing from other gardening and flower farming channels that if you just leave your Snapdragons in place, that they'll rebloom in the fall. So I already took the Hortanova off of this, so it's not supported well. I was kind of surprised that these started reblooming, so that's something I learned, and next year I will better protect the Snapdragons and just leave them in place so I can get a second flush of them when the weather cools off. These are pictures of a few bouquets that I made from flowers, all from my garden. If you enjoy seeing pictures like this, you can always follow me on Instagram where I post those photos. And that is all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give me a thumbs up. And the best way you can support me and my channel is to subscribe